Hello viewers, Super GT here, welcome along to the final round of my karting season. For this one, we're up north in Sunderland at Warden Law. Now, we're racing in October in Britain. This was bound to bring some bad weather, and it did. Some of the worst weather I must have ever raced in my whole life. The last round at Shenington was an absolute disaster, so we're trying to end the season on a high note. So the final round of the season, let's jump into it. Hello viewers, Super GT here. We're at the final round of the UKC already. We're at Warden Law. As you can tell, it's lovely and warm. A lovely basking 38 degrees, which is why I'm wearing 4 layers. I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who's supported this series this year. Lots of comments, especially in the recent videos of people who've started karting, getting into karting, enjoying watching it on the live streams, watching these videos. So I just want to say a massive thank you because, I mean, it's just been amazing. I didn't really expect to have that kind of response this year. So we're at Warden Law. This is one of the 3 tracks this season that I had never been to before this year. So there was a lot of learning to do. So let's jump into Friday practice and show you my first laps around the track. Yep, so jumping into our first session on the Friday. As I said, not been to this track before, so a lot of learning to do. Just like Rowra and Larkhall earlier in the season. Oh, someone's already binned it. Nice, lovely start there. Just like Larkhall and Rowra earlier in the season, not been to them before. Therefore, you've got to learn fairly quickly on the Friday. Got to get up to speed quite quickly. Now, we knew that the weather forecast was pretty much going to be raining for the majority of the weekend, so I suppose this was relevant practice in these kind of weird conditions. Obviously it's wet, but it's this weird sort of greasy wet as well. And one of the things we really began to notice very early around this track, you can see I'm having problems with it here, that is the central black line around the track was very, very lacking in grip. Whenever you went over that thing, you were sliding about all over the place. You had to be really careful about positioning your kart relative to that line in the damp conditions. So that was our first session, just getting a little taster of the track, putting into the weighbridge, and actually we're bang on the weight, weighing in just 1 kilo over the limit, which is a safe amount to go with. And coming out for the next session, you can see the weather is a lot different. Now we're up behind the local favourite, Kai Hunter here, fellow DHR driver. And if there's anyone you want to follow around this track, it's him, as he's done many, many laps indeed. You see him pushing the kart to the limit. It's very good just to get behind him, even for a lap or so. You see just how good his traction is, how fast he is into the corners, and therefore off of them as well. So just learning a lot from that. Trying to get familiar with the curbs as well, especially through that chicane there. And that'll be crucial to your lap time. For another session here, we go out once again. It's getting drier and drier on this Friday. You can see it's blue clouds by this point, and the track is pretty much dry. So we had our first dry running, very fast sweeping corners, very enjoyable first sector here actually at Warden Law. Really did enjoy this. I would say though that I was looking at this track on the map, and I was thinking it's got lots of long, fast sweeping corners, and that was actually something I was quite worried about going in, as that tends to be my kind of weakness, that type of corner, if you can really nail it down that specifically. But we're getting up to speed, and in the dry, enjoying it. Not quite on the pace I'd like, but it is a very fun track, I must say that. Lots of different types of corner, but also a very fast and flowing circuit as well. So Friday was a good day, just getting acquainted with the circuit in all different types of conditions, wet and dry, on both types of tyre as well. But that's the end of Friday. Bit of a mismatch of conditions, but we learnt a fair amount from our running there. As you can see, Friday was a bit of a mismatch of weather. And this weekend's supposed to be raining all weekend. But yeah, we're going to be looking at the weather. In fact, let me bring up the weather right now. Let me bring up the weather app. I can just feel the first drops right now. Got it. Perfect. I'm actually quite glad it's raining, even though I'm going to be miserable and freezing cold all weekend. Alright, let's get into DHR awning. Let's have a look. Here she is, fresh cart, looking good, looking nice and shiny. We're running the EOS chassis. Lots of people ask why not the LN cart. It's not actually out yet, so that's why. So we've got a fresh cart, we've also got a fresh suit. Let's go and have a look. Okay, we jump into the first practice session of Saturday. Now, it's only practice, but it's all important. Every practice session matters, every lap you do matters. Any time in the seat is valuable. So these laps here, they all matter. We're just trying to acquaint ourselves with the day, the conditions, the circuit, as we will be racing later on this day. Now, this session actually went pretty well. I actually felt pretty comfortable in the kart. Trying out some different lines here. You see, often in the wet you go deep and then cut back. You see here, just kind of kept it narrow, just went to the apex, kind of pinned on the apex, and it kind of worked. Now for the long horseshoe, I went for this line, which is suboptimal. You don't really want to be doing that. But that's what practice is for. Pushing the limits, seeing what you can and can't get away with. Going for a big lunge there into turn 1, getting the move done. Now normally in turn 1 you want to go wide on the way in, but I suppose if you're going to overtake someone you kind of have to go off that line, go narrow. And dealing with traffic, just the visibility, as you can see, is very, very low once you're behind someone. But it was going to get a lot worse than this over the course of the weekend. Some different lines here. You see they're going around the outside, getting good traction, and also getting used to the curbs as some mud gets got onto the screen. But that was the end of our first practice session of the day.
No, because we're not really going to... Yeah, but if we want to do that, we're doing it for first.
Oh, beautiful.
I'm happy to stay like that, mate.
Go to the hose. Right.
Ready?
Go for it, mate. Oh yeah. There we go. That's worth a tenth, I reckon. God, that is up and down.
Beautiful day.
Yeah. Oh boy.
You get on that concrete on the outside, and then when you come out off it, it's literally straight up.
You like pivot a lot and then drive off straight.
And then
That is Kite Hunter. Him and his brother Reese. They've done pick a number and then double it and then triple it and then times it by 1,000,000. That's how many laps they've done. So he's the guy to follow. He's the guy to learn from. Okay, let's jump into the second practice session. This time with fresh, wet tyres, brand new wet tyres, going out into the group. A couple of people spinning off immediately. But this session was a lot tougher than the first one. Now, you go out on fresh wets. So these are my race tyres. There's a reason why you go out on them in practice. Really just to scrub off the top layer of the wets. As often the first sort of laps on the wet tyres aren't normally the best, so you kind of want to get rid of them during a practice session so that by the time you get to the race the tyres are a bit better. Lots of people spinning on this session, as you can see, and yeah, the conditions were weird. Obviously it was getting wetter and wetter. I've mentioned it many times over the year that these cars are very sensitive to any sort of change in condition. Even if it gets a little bit hotter or colder, it gets a little bit wetter or drier, everything just feels different from session to session, so you really have to judge it on a case-by-case basis every time you go out on the track. See, for this long left-hander, lots of mud getting kicked up onto the track, and that's really because lots of cars going very, very narrow on that corner and actually going 2 wheels beyond the curb onto the grass. So that's something you had to do at a lot of the corners. We was beginning to work out, get your inside wheels sort of well beyond the curb and sort of onto the grass in many cases. So not particularly comfortable getting splashed through these puddles, but that is what you get for racing in Britain in October in yeah, I mean, in cold, wet, rainy conditions up north, it's always going to be like this. And just have to really acquaint ourselves with these conditions. To be fair, I prefer these conditions. I prefer that it was wet. I tend to go better when it's less grip. I've said that many times throughout the season. But here in this second practice session, just trying to work out the best lines. It's a very fun track, especially this first sector. That's something I did begin to realise. This track's actually a very, very fun track. I really did enjoy it. So just trying to work out some different lines here, going deep into that corner. As there's multiple interpretations of the lines, so we're going to go deep here into this 180 degree left. Someone comes up the inside, but we're going to get up the inside for this right-hander. And he's going to switch me back here and appear on the right-hand side. So lots of different interpretations of the lines. But it was another good session. We learnt a fair amount there and got absolutely soaked, as you can probably tell. But that was the end of all of our practice. So next up is our first race.
Are you wet, mate?
No. Pretty dry actually. Two with Sky Park and Blair Smith. Well, Charlie Berry.
Glamour.
Local driver to Warden North.
Alright, normally we'd be doing 3 practice sessions. Today we're doing 2, so we're going straight into race number 1, if you can hear me. It's drying out a little bit, so we've got to judge the conditions quite quickly. Still wet tyres. Heat number 1, let's go. That is not it, viewers, that is horrible. Okay then, it's time for our first race of the weekend, starting up in 9th for this one. Now, this was a start. It's kind of a weird start. Look at the left. There's a big gap because Alex Baker, a DHR teammate there, having a problem with his kart. So the entire left-hand side of the grid did not get a good launch. Sucks to be them because I was on the right-hand side, so it didn't matter to me. So lots of people getting stuck quite far back there. But we're going to try and capitalise on that. Starting 7th. Immediately losing a position to Sean Butcher, but that's kind of normal. He pretty much flies past me in every race. He's the championship leader going into this round. So a very, very fast guy. Now we're just trying to hold our own, make sure we don't make any mistakes here. And going quite deep into that hairpin. Going to cut back, someone does go past us. Going to have the inside for this one. So it's all kicking off on this first lap. Just trying to keep to the right hand side here for the chicane. Make sure we don't make a mistake through here. Someone on our left over the concrete and then into the hairpin called Gasworks, this one. There's some contact and actually someone spins out there. We're going to go up into 7th position. Can we get one more overtake done here, keeping it narrow? Are we going to be able to get this move done here? Around the outside up into 6th? Not quite. We'd gain one and lose one at the same time. You see here the camera notwithstanding these conditions too well. So if you can make out some of these pixels quite vaguely, you can see that I've got overtaken there by number 19. Down into 8th. So not too bad. I mean, we've only lost one position from where we started. Could be worse. Could definitely be a lot worse, especially in these conditions where it's very easy to make a mistake or get punted or spin wide in any various configuration. I'm going to go nice and narrow here. Park on the apex. Not much anyone can do from behind if you just go narrow like that. So that's a good sort of defensive line. That was Gilbert there trying to go for the move on the way out. You might have just seen him hopping over the curb quite nicely. Trying to get past number 38 now. Are we going to be able to get this move done into the hairpin, Gasworks hairpin? We're going to go nice and narrow. And we are going to get the move done. Simultaneously losing the position to Lewis Gilbert. Very, very fast guy, Gilbert. And by this point, you see how bad the camera got. So I'm going to try and recite the rest of this race from external footage, apart from this moment here. where Gilbert actually goes very wide and I get back past him. So by this point I'm sat in a comfortable sort of 7th, Gilbert just behind, and sort of to my amazement I actually managed to just gap him. And that's something that I've not done all season. He's in the top 3 in the championship. So to be able to do that, I was quite pleased. Kai Hunter behind, in fact, the local favourite. And even he couldn't get past me. So something was going very right for me for once. And I actually more than held my own towards the front of the pack. And this is the onboard view, which is not really much of a view, for being honest. But the car in front of me at the end of the race had a 5-second penalty for a front fairing infringement, meaning we finished in 6th place.
Get in there.
What a race, mate. What a race that was.
I could not see a thing. It was like 3 times bad than that. Like, I could not see for the last 3 laps. That was good, mate.
Well done, Steve. Well done.
Oh, Jesus. Visibility.
Listen, yeah, photo as well.
Alright, so that was heat number 1. Went really well. Finished P6. Amazing. We kept Kai Hunter at bay at the end. Drove away from Gilbert. So it was actually a really good race. We had good pace there. Next one is dried out. We're on slick tyres now. Starting at the back though. Okay, time for heat number 2. Now, kind of like Friday, as you can see, the blue sky came out and conditions got a lot drier. You can see we're on fresh slick tyres for this one. So the day did get drier and drier. The rain did pass, and we're coming up to our first start, or the start here. I was a bit further back than I would have liked. The sun quite low down, which was a good job we changed our visor over to the dark one. But fortunately that wasn't the race start. They let us go around once more so that we can get a nice close start, as you can see here. So race number 2, starting 21st on the grid. This is our back start of the weekend. Immediately gaining some positions from a slow starting left hand side once again, and gaining another position there. Now just trying to settle into the race. This is our back start. Not much pressure on this race, so just trying to gain as many as you possibly can. Have some fun with it as well, of course. That's what we're here for, right? To have some fun. So moving up into 16th, so we gained quite a few positions where to go really deep there, and that's not the greatest line I've ever taken. We lose 2 positions. So number 22 up the inside of Sean Butcher there into the chicane. Just trying to keep it nice and tidy here, and settle into this race as best as possible. So, as I said earlier, just trying to judge the conditions exactly as they are. It is pretty much full dry, but the track isn't particularly rubbered in because it's only just dried out. So yes, it is dry, but not a huge amount of grip at this point, especially given it's quite cold as well. So a bit deeper into the race, losing the position here, going down into 19th. It is still higher than where we started, so it doesn't seem like a good position, but I suppose we did start a bit further back on this one. So just trying to keep as close as we can to number 62, having a good little battle here. We do get overtaken though into the Gasworks hairpin by number 88 and move down to 20th. But I knew that going into this weekend, dry weather would not be my strength here at all. I wanted it to rain as much as possible. So I just began to get dropped here in the dry conditions, although there was a bit of a mechanical problem I think here for number 62. As you can see, just began to slow down quite considerably, and therefore you can see it just has no acceleration. We got the inside and gained a position for free, and I think there was another position for free here. Yes, there was. Look at that Another car span off, so we gained another one for free. Quite nice. Look how fast this long left horseshoe corner is. That's the kind of corner I knew I would struggle around. Just long corners where you're in there for a long time. Physically, it's tough, but in terms of technique, that's what I knew I'd struggle with over the course of the season. Just the long sweepers, because that is kind of the corner where you have to hold your arms still on the wheel. And it's quite a hard technique to master, and I'm getting there with it, but it does take time to really get these techniques down. Now, this race was kind of characterised by me being pretty quick towards the end, so I didn't start too well and kind of made a slow start, but as you can see here, I'm beginning to gain on a couple of karts, but the unfortunate thing is that it's the final lap, so maybe I left it a lap too late. So I could have gained a couple of positions here if I was a little bit quicker earlier in the race. I just took a little bit too long to get into it and to judge the conditions, but ultimately we come through to finish 18th. Nothing special, but we brought it home and we finished higher up than where we started.
It just took too long to get up to speed, way too long. Just couldn't. By the end, I was all right, and I was gaining on the cars ahead, but it just took me half the race to like work out the lines. But it was good fun. That's the main thing, right?
Okay, so by this point in the day, or you can call it the night, we were supposed to do our third heat, but it got cancelled because of an incident in the preceding race. So we were going to do our third heat on the Sunday morning instead.
Okay, that's the end of day one. Heat 3 cancelled. There was a big crash just before us. There was oil on the track. So we're going to race tomorrow. We're going to do our third race tomorrow. It's a successful day. We've had our best ever result, 6th. I mean, it had to happen, didn't it? We moved forward in our second race as well. I think it's a positive day, and I think we've continued some momentum from Wilton Mill. So now it's time to go out in Newcastle, drink far too many...
Speech redacted.
...and come back in the morning. All right, it is now Sunday, the final day of the UKC season. I'm very sorry to say that. One more day of racing. Now, Heat 3 didn't happen last night. It's going to happen now. It is now bucketing down. Let me get the weather radar right. We have a cloud the exact shape of the United Kingdom, which is engulfing us right now. That's what we can look forward to for the next couple of hours, getting absolutely drenched. Next up is Heat 3, starting 7th. Let's do it.
I'm actually lying to you. This is the 3-lap practice. Now, normally this isn't really an important session, but I thought I'd bring you this one because of how much of a disaster it was for me. Now, it's only 3-lap practice. You just want to warm yourself up, really. But I kind of pushed a little bit too hard. As you can see here, binning myself on the chicane. Also binning myself on the gasworks hairpin, just going backwards into the wall. So pushing the limits here. Then there's this cheeky moment from this driver up in front who decided to run his mate off into the mud. Previous bad blood there, I don't know, but it was entertaining to watch nonetheless, should I say. Okay, so yeah, 3-lap practice. Now, a lap later, I managed to bin it here. I don't know what was wrong with me this morning, but just completely binning it at pretty much every opportunity. And it wasn't done there because I felt like doing another one here. So it was like I was just a complete noob again, completely forgot how to drive. But yeah, just thought I'd bring you that entertaining little 3-lap practice of how to spin as many times as possible. Okay, so we move on to heat number 3. This is the race that would have taken place on the Saturday evening, but was cancelled or postponed, should I say. So we are now doing it instead on Sunday morning. In the wet, it would have been a dry race if we'd done it on Saturday evening, but we're going to have a wet race here instead. And this is what we mean by treacherous and awful conditions. Just look at the lack of visibility as you go into turn 1. And I've only got 6 cars in front of me at that point. Imagine if you're in the mid-pack or at the back of the pack, you've got the spray of 20 cars in front of you. So visibility at a premium here in this race. Conditions as bad as almost as bad as I've ever raced in. It wasn't exactly, you know, it wasn't like there was a tornado or a volcanic eruption, but it was pretty bad. The rain was just relentless, and it created a lot of puddles on the circuit, which were fairly treacherous, and we're going to see examples of that here. Well, as I hit the curb, I'm not sure if there was contact from behind, but either way, the result is we dropped back to the back of the pack. So very unfortunate start. It wasn't looking too bad up until that point. So now we're going to have to stage something of a mini comeback. Lots of mud getting thrown straight at me there through the horseshoe. Lots of mud on that corner because people taking the grassy line through there. Up the insides here into turn 1, into 20th. Just trying to claw back as many positions as possible. A couple of carts off there, 2 carts off. We're going to gain 2 positions for free with quite a few carts immediately in front of us, so plenty of potential here. It's only lap 2. Got some potential to gain some positions back, which we quite amateurishly lost. Is that a word? I don't even know. It is now. By spinning, we lost them on lap 1. We'll try and make up as many as we possibly can. We've taken a nice outside line. But there's no way around the outside there into the chicane. Try not to spin it this time around. Can we nip underneath on the way out? Not quite, but just look at the lack of visibility. What I would say is that the GoPro camera makes it look nicer, if anything. Looking through the visor at this rain and this mud, it is harder to see than what this camera sees. So whatever you can see here, just imagine it's like 3 times worse, and that's actually what it would look like for me when I was out there through my eyes, as it is a bit different. There's Lewis Gilbert coming back through, so he's going for the narrow line. He really made that work. So I was actually able to drive away from him in the first heat, but I have no answer for his pace here, as he's just going to quite easily come through with the narrow line. It was really working for him there, actually. So fair play. So this is lap number 4. Up behind, who are up behind here? I'm not sure, but they're going to spin out, so we're not going to be behind them for too much longer there. Gaining that position. Look at the puddles here. Absolutely ridiculous. And here's a really good example of the treachery of the puddles. Number 88 goes through, and then he's going to hit this puddle on the exit of the chicane, drop the kart completely. Looks kind of silly, but trust me, it's really easy to do, because I do it here on the final lap on the inside curb this time. Boom, just drop the kart. It's so easy to do that. The kart just easily going round, and there were lots of people spinning in this race because of the conditions. But ultimately here, this was the final lap. Parked it narrow because I sensed there was someone behind me after that spin, but we did bring it home in 16th, which was actually 14th once penalties were applied. My GoPro foam cover mount thing wanted to say goodbye and leave the chat, so that did its thing. So we bring the kart home. Those are our 3 heats done. We had a 14th there. We had a 6th place as well, let's not forget. That's our highest result or our best result of the season, so pretty pleased with it overall. Moving on to the pre-final next.
It's horrible out there. It was freezing cold, and so couldn't see anything. Could be worse.
I'll just put a little caption saying Shenington.
There we go, just about.
24 laps.
Okay guys, FANATEC been sponsoring us all year. We know that by now. We've got another giveaway. We're going to give away the CSLDD with the Boost Kit 180. If you want to get entered, there's a link in the description, so go and have a look at that.
What does it look like?
Oh, it looks like this. It's that. You definitely want that. Could just say that Kai Hunter has very kindly let me use his hairdryer. I think he might be the better Hunter brother now. Yeah, you heard it, Reese. We cut the pre-final, the rain got too bad. You saw the weather earlier, so the conditions were too bad. So we cut one of the races, so we're going straight into the final. And last race of the season. I've kept one pair of fresh gloves, the quadrant gloves. They're not wet. It's the only thing that isn't wet. Do you want to, you're driving, mate. Any advice, Kai, for this last race?
Find the dry bits.
Find the dry bits.
Yeah. Don't go on the wet bits.
Don't go on the wet bits.
And go fast.
Alright. Okay, here we go then, guys. The final race of the whole season. Let's have a good one. Let's have some fun with it. By this point, Tishany turned up with the wow sign. Hopefully that's worth a couple of tenths for me if he shows it every lap I go past. Now, you can see the conditions kind of similar every day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It just got drier towards the afternoon, but it wasn't dry enough for slick tyres, still wet tyres. So kind of mixed conditions here, just kind of a weird greasy wet. But this is our final race of the year. Let's have a good one, starting 14th. Let's begin, immediately up into 12th, courtesy of a couple of slow starters on the inside. Losing a position, gaining position. Just almost getting chopped there. We're going to gain one position on the Argenti driver. Looking around the outside of Alex Baker, our DHR teammate, number 11. So we're up into 12th here. On the exit here, number 23 gets run wide. We're going to gain a position there. Up the inside, we're going to park it narrow, the defensive line. And we'll do the same again for the next corner. Park it on the right-hand side, the inside. Make sure no one goes up our inside. Try not to bin it on the chicane this time around. There we go. Keep it nice and planted. Really, really having to modulate your throttle here in these conditions. Just be really, really delicate every time you press the pedal, because it's so easy to spin the kart, get wheel spin. The kart doesn't want to accelerate. You just have to be really, really careful with that. And I found that often just driving at sort of 50 or 70% throttle out of a lot of the corners really helps. I didn't quite take the right line here, as there was a lot more grip on the inside than what I thought. So it wasn't as wet as I thought. So just trying to judge the conditions as quickly as possible. Kart going very wide there through turn 1, lap number 2. Are we going to be able to gain? Not quite. So we remain in 12th position at this point in time. Just trying to keep as close as we can to the karts up in front. And we had a really good little battle here with number 62 in the early stages of this race. Really fun conditions actually, especially these first couple of corners here. Turns 1, 2, and then into 3. And then you loop back to the right for turn number 4 over the curb. Now we're going to have to go to the external cam because the GoPro fogged up quite a bit there. So having a good little battle here, just outside the top 10. Trying to fight past number 14 here. Didn't quite manage it into turn 1, but then we do manage it into turn number 4 if we have a little zoom in, as you can see here. Chucking up the inside and moving up a position. Our pace was actually not too bad in this one. Actually more than holding our own in the upper mid-pack of the race. At the end of the race, no surprises to see Kai Hunter winning the race. And we came through to finish on track in 12th position. So that's actually our highest results in a final. And that was it. That was the end of our season. This is our last bit on track for the whole year. Look at that. Oh, I've ruined it.
I had an accident, mummy.
Jesus Christ.
2 points from 10. Oh.
P8, guys. Good way to end the season. We found the Tifosi. Here we go. Look at this. GT is the GOAT. All right, there we go, guys. The end of the season. I'm so sad to say that. It's been really good fun. And that last race, I finished this position, probably P6 maybe. Really good fun. Really enjoyed that last race. Really good track, Warden Law. But I just want to say a big thank you to everyone for supporting the series, and especially, of course, Quadrant. But yeah, thank you to all of the viewers, all the supporters for enjoying the series, for all the positive comments, because it's been very, very nice to see that, very nice to read that. But yeah, we've got some big things lined up for 2022, so do look out for that. I also want to say a very big thank you, Dan Holland Racing. Really, really looked after me this year. At the start of the year, I was having a hard time. It was not easy at all. We worked really hard on making the kart lightweight, improving myself, giving me confidence, working on setup, everything. So Dan Holland Racing, really good. It's been really good running with them this year. So big thank you to them. Big thank you to Quadrant. Big thank you to UKC, putting on a really good championship. Still really good drivers as well. We had Kai there winning that last race and walking it. So we're up against the best still. I think time now for some Jaeger bombs.
To be serious though, guys, this is the end of the video and the end of the season. It's been a really, really good season, really enjoyable. And I've learnt a lot as a driver, visited a couple of new tracks. Absolutely loved it. Loved every moment. I really hope you've enjoyed watching the series. Do tune in for 2022. We've got some big plans, so do look out for that. But thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll catch you next time. Goodbye.